back, guys. It's our rundown once again of our Lightning in a Bottle podcast. So those of you that are tuning in, hopefully you enjoyed the first one since we kind of got back in the groove. We'll try to provide some similar content today as we highlight some topics of what's going on in the few weeks since our last one, whether that be gym related, news related, so on and so forth. So keep giving us feedback, keep tuning in, and hopefully you enjoy it. As always, Galen and Steve in Morristown here, Justin and I here in Bristol. So we'll kick it off with how's everybody doing?
Good. We're Odin here as well. He'll be
Odin, if you're seeing some shaking of the camera, he's laying at our feet. So
I'm good. How about you all in Motown?
Good. We're getting ready to leave to go out of town, going to Austin in a week and a half, something like that. So I'm looking forward to that trip. I don't know about you guys, but last time we were down there, all we ate was barbecue, which if you're going to eat barbecue anywhere, it should be there, right? So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. I don't know about you guys. I can't speak for you. And then finding out who the speakers are, that was pretty cool. But that's what I was thinking about. Other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, all's well. Same thing. I'm happy to repeat the barbecue performance any day of the week. Sick of rainy weather.
Yes, rainy weather sucks. Well, it was Ironworks and East Austin Ciders. Is that what we had last time? Remember those cans they had? Was it Ironworks that we went to? Ironworks Barbecue?
That was the first place, I think. Kind of like a street vendor, open air kind of place. Is that what it was?
yeah, nice.
And then possibly
Was the other one kind of like a Dollywood setup? Did it feel like that to you all, where it was like felt like an old cabin or something?
That's the one, I think.
Is that the same one?
Yeah.
Everything comes out on a tray with a piece of paper. Like
And Heather was with us in that particular outing.
Yeah. And then maybe a revisit to the Odd Duck as well.
Oh yeah. That was the guy that had like the seasonal offerings of food, right? Like they change it every 6 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it was.
When he a runner up in the James Beard Award or something like that. Super talented guy. He had a little pretzel in a cup that was like nationally renowned, and he found out that like this journalist was going to come do a story on it, change the menu the next day so he didn't have to deal with it or whatever. Total boss move. I was like, that's pretty impressive.
I'm wading into Austin blind. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Texas, and definitely not in big city Texas like that. So I'm excited to experience some of the stuff you're talking about, as well as the event.
What part of Texas you been to?
Went out to West Texas. I had this one job once upon a time. And then flew out to Lubbock and Dalhart and Amarillo and all of those West Texas type tumbleweed scenes. And outside of that, I think I flew in and out of Dallas a time or two, but never, spent any time. So Austin should be fun.
Good times. Amarillo's good. They got the big Texan where you do the 96-ounce steak and get it for free. Dude, like I love beef. It's one of my favorite meat. And like everything's so cheap there where they have so much cattle. Rob and I got like a 23-ounce sirloin for two, and I think it costs like $16. So we split it. We didn't eat the whole thing by ourselves.
Quitters.
But we split it, and it was like $16. We're like, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that was some of the best. When I went to Amarillo, it was some of the best that type barbecue I'd ever had. I remember they did a whole loin. They smoked an entire loin and smoked it like I guess you would smoke a brisket type, just not as hot. And depending on what type of cut of the meat you wanted, like medium rare, they just cut off of the ends into the middle being the most rare. So they're cutting cross sections of steak, but they smoked the entire loin the way I understand it. And they left like a fat cap layer, kind of like what you do with brisket, but it was a sirloin instead. And it was one of the best steaks I've had before.
So it's like a beef Wellington instead of the pastry, you got the fat.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, sounds about right.
You feel like you have a good grasp on brisket now, Taryn, since your performance at the anniversary party?
I feel, I'm not afraid of it anymore, if that counts. Like, that was always something like you never want to buy $90+ chunk of meat to screw up. So when it was someone else's $90+ $50+ chunk of meat. It was even more terrifying because I was going to screw up their money, their hard-earned money. But it turned out good, and it's not as scary as it once seemed. But there's definitely some areas I could tighten it up a bit with a little more attention. But
is that foodalism? Is that what that is? Were you?
Yeah.
Could you hear me?
No.
I said, is that foodalism? Is that where you use someone else's meat to fix their food?
But it was good, and the reports were good. So that's really the ultimate goal of making people happy and filling their bellies up. That was fun. So
I thought it tasted great. Very
Yeah,
good.
it was awesome.
good. Well, we can keep doing it and just keep getting better at it. And then I'll just open up a little side hustle in Big Bluff City and run 3 days a week out of there. So
Who was
Bluff Brisket.
what's that?
Bluff City Brisket.
There you go. Yeah.
BCB by Taryn?
Or yeah. And so join in the one coffee shop, the one tap house, and the one cafe. So what do you point at?
He pointed Steve's hat, cash
Yeah,
flow.
exactly. Diversify.
That's what you're after.
We have to remember to go.
See that?
Can you read this?
No.
Oh, got that 10X on there.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Very neat.
Very cool.
We
Maybe it'd be 10X barbecue.
That's there you go.
Carry it over.
Be great. One of the members asked, "Can we do this like once a month?" I was like, "That would be nice. It's like if we could just hang out and have a get together." I remember when we used to watch the Zach Evan Esch videos, Galen. Remember those? The underground strength guy. But he talked about this one CrossFit gym in New Jersey. Every Friday night in the summer, they had this little fountain that broke in the shopping center, didn't have any water in it. So he'd buy like 100 pounds of ice and they would just fill it up with drinks and hang out every Friday night. I was like, it's get expensive after a
Yeah,
while.
no doubt. That's I guess the ultimate community experience there, huh? Every week.
It's like going to a level 1.
Yeah.
All right, so what we got? We got Pale FX coming up. Steve was talking about what
Yeah, so we're not just going to Austin to eat food and to hang out, as much as that sounds like it. We are weaving in some education and fitness and nutrition experience in there as well.
out of all like the seminars I think we've been to that year, I think probably the best, most educational drinking from a water hose type thing. It's so much that you could get to. We got to talk to James Fitzgerald and all those people, Rob Wolf, even seen a board on panel on ayahuasca, which is completely out of the realm of us, but I don't know. I'm excited. Rob Wolf, I'm glad Galen called him out on their social media the other day and asked if he's going to be there because he was supposed to, but he wasn't on the website, but he is going to be there. So I'm excited to see him. Who else? Did you recognize any other people?
Mark Sisson, Ben Greenfield.
I was hoping Chris Kessler would be there.
I think he will
but
be.
didn't see him on the
I think
lineup.
he will be. I can't remember. Maybe Master John, maybe Parsley. Can't remember.
A lot of OGs in our era of old school CrossFit.
Some of those seem to be like a core group that hit those big events. You guys have had the chance to see them quite a few times, and I've seen them a time or two myself. The handful, the Ben Greenfields and the Rob Wolves and stuff. But the cool thing about that stuff is those guys stay in touch with the changes of this world we live in, the fitness and the nutrition world. So it's not like you go and see a band and you can check the box that you saw them and their content is going to be the same. They're always bringing new ideas. I know Rob just released a new documentary, if you will, and book. So he'd probably expand upon that. I would assume those guys stay on top of their game. So
Yeah, I think Ben Greenfield maybe has a book that recently released or coming up, one of the others. Well, he has another book coming out.
he just released one last time we got the chance to see him too. Remember? I don't remember what it was called, but it was freshly out when we saw him at AHS.
I can't remember.
Wasn't it blueprint something about a blueprint, I want to say.
Yeah, I remember the cover being something like that. The imagery on it, something similar to that theme.
That dude is always about some sort of biohacking. Like, I feel like he's going to eventually say, I'll give you an extra 20 minutes on your life if you do this. Like, he's always just talking about stuff like that. I know he's into and I'm kind of curious about this with like the infrared sauna stuff. I would like the red light stuff. I would like to hear somebody expand upon that. And once we get down there, I assume that somebody will. but probably him. But yeah, it'd be cool to hear that. And like you said, they do bring fresh perspectives. I know I was talking about Chris Kessler, is that his last name? Or Kresser. Yeah. Last time I saw him when we went down there, I guess it was 2016, something like that. He was talking about like pH balance and how a lot of that is a myth as far as what it does in your body. And I thought that was pretty interesting because that's an entire market by itself. Like anything pH balance, you guys go in the store, you could see anything being sold about making you more alkaline than acidic and all of that. So it's a whole market all on its own. And he just flat out debunked it and killed it right there. So that was pretty cool to watch. Somebody to kind of upset a whole industry with some science. That's pretty cool to see, in my opinion. But yeah, hopefully he'll be there too.
Speak. I guess the last time I heard him speak was when they did the kind of debate type stuff back and forth on Joe. And remember, Joe had him on and he was talking about his ideas, and then they brought the other guy on, and then they came together and worked through, I think it was related to saturated fat and cardiovascular disease, if I remember correctly. And this one guy was a PhD or maybe an MD, and he's obviously a PhD, but they had a pretty good run at it. It's been a while now. It's been quite a few years now.
He's an MD. He was a cardiovascular doctor as well, I think in Hollywood or something.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah. So that's that whole concept that we just mentioned, that science constantly changes. If you're just learning the stuff through a book that was written who knows how long ago, then you're behind. So that's the fun stuff. That. Not only that, but also I get just as excited because it has a unique way of like rekindling our flame too, to get around those type people and just pull you out of your routines of being in the gym here and the norms, but going and getting you excited again about bringing new info back. I think we talked about that last time we were on the podcast, but I look forward to that.
Well, another thing that's kind of cool is like we've, however long we've been walking up on this earth, we only have maybe not even probably a century worth of like nutritional science, physical science. I mean, would you say like real science, maybe 100 years worth? So like, we're just in the precipice, like just like you said, just the very surface level of that stuff. So it is pretty cool to see where things go. I think it's funny when you turn on the news, like they'll say, like there'll be a headline like coffee's good, and there'll be a headline like coffee's bad. It's like nobody really knows, and it's cool to see it evolve across time for sure. But hopefully we'll have some new stuff, and hopefully it won't be counter to what we've heard before.
Or maybe it will be. I'm willing to change my mind about anything, honestly.
Yeah, well, I guess I just mean I hope I didn't base a lot of my life on something, and they're like, yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, ideas are like clothing; they're just the best choices we have to wear right now. I'm willing to change them whenever I'm presented with better information.
That's true.
And I think a lot of stuff like as well, like you get a little tidbit, maybe a tiny bit change, but it all goes back to the basics. Like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Like all this tried and true principles of eating whole foods and stuff like that always comes back to, all right, this is what you need to do most of the time. And push the plate away a little bit more often instead of pulling it closer.
Yeah, and speaking of science and changes and ideas, what about the airline changes recently in the mask mandate world? That seems like a big step towards putting this even further behind us, maybe. What y'all think?
I'm excited. I'm so happy like this happened this week and we don't have to wear a mask next week. I don't know.
Yeah, and it almost seems like that's a big, it seems like for me, that's a pretty big step for them to step out federally and say that or rule that. So maybe it's enough behind us now that it doesn't rear its teeth back up again. Knock on wood, we'll see. But
yeah, we got a lot of overhead noise if y'all can't hear that.
I think I saw where a judge is challenging that overturned challenge this morning.
Yeah, it's the Biden administration is trying to appeal that.
It's the Department of Justice, I think. It's not, it's
So it's an arm of the Biden administration trying to, I mean, it's politics at its core level. I mean, you really had a Trump judge make that happen, and you have a Biden arm trying to fight against it. So politics at its core. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, hopefully, and I would think the airline industry is probably pretty sick of that too. I know they were talking about it months ago anyways. I know like the heads of Delta and United and American, all of them got together and they were already talking about getting rid of it then. Because it only hurts, I assume it only hurts airline sales anyways. Maybe not terribly, but I'm sure it hurts a little bit. So I'm sure that they were one of the first ones to say, can we please get rid of this? So it's not surprising. But overall, I think it's pretty cool. And if you're somebody who has a compromised immune system or you want to keep wearing a mask, you've got the option. I saw some people saying they want to keep their mask on. So go for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I like the Babylon Bee headlines that federal judge approves that you no longer have to pretend to eat your snacks for 5 hours on a plane anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so funny. That was funny.
Whoever does their writing, man, I assume obviously it's a collective of people, but they are
Sharp.
yeah.
Very sharp.
Speaking
Absolutely.
of how, have you guys heard anything else about, I can't remember what state it was. It was somewhere up north, if I remember correctly, and it was the gym that was really fighting hard, keeping their doors open and things. The gentleman with the big beard that was found on the news quite a bit. Whatever came of them? Has anything surfaced about that, or has anyone looked into that?
I just know he's from Jersey. I don't know what happened to his story. I just know like social media wise, that dude blew up. So he's probably, I would assume, getting quite a few endorsements, not from companies, but I bet people have reached out to help him. I don't know about his Jersey is that's one of the most backward states to me, as far as a lot of the way they rule things, especially the way they handle COVID too. So, I mean, they're probably going to be one of the last states to hang on as far as those regulations go. That's just kind of the way they're built. I mean, like I said, they're a little different. So, but hopefully he's doing good. I mean, hopefully he's got enough.
The last I saw it, they were still kind of fighting in court. It seems like maybe the New Jersey side is trying to find a happy medium. All right, you owe this much in fines if you just pay this. And I think he's like, no. And he's also running for Congress as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he's running for Congress too.
His name's what? Is it Ian Smith? Is that the guy's name?
Ian Smith Fitness, I think, is his Instagram handle.
Interesting.
He gets in there. He didn't pull any punches.
Oh yeah, I like him.
Is he military guy?
I do not know.
Or
I
just
really
kinda-
do not know.
It's maybe a stretch of an assumption there, but just with the beard and the
Tattoos and
yeah,
giant physique.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything else about that, but they were giving it all they had. That's for sure, for a good while, and they were in the limelight for a good bit too. So
Yeah.
hopefully it all pans out for them.
Midterms are coming up in the political world, and it's kind of trying to appease everyone on their side, not make them flop sides. So hopefully whoever wins the midterms will have some power back.
Yeah.
Welcome to Political Podcast. Experience.
Well, I was about to say, I'll go ahead and steer this in a different direction. We're in, I guess, week 3 now of the additional hate the runs work and the kind of Murph prep work that we've been putting in. Is that correct, Galen? 3rd weekend now, I'm pretty sure. Of
Should
that,
be, yeah.
if I remember correctly. So have you guys been seeing people take advantage of that? What's the feedback on that side? I know that Justin's done a good job of writing those and providing that additional work that people crave. So you guys seen people putting in the time on those yet?
Parish, I just spoke with Parish before we started this podcast, and he had just completed, he did the thruster double under workout, and then he paired it with Viking and the burpee workout, and he said it took him 23 minutes. So the body weight calories and strict-ish burpees.
Yeah.
He spoke highly of it. He said it was challenging and that it sucked, but he did it. So I think it's creative. So hat off to Jay.
I definitely.
A lot of the creative nuance you're putting into that extra work. It's not just work for the sake of work. It's kind of like art in the form of work for the sake of work.
With an end goal in mind, and because all of them are still, as you can tell, most of them centered around these type of movements you're going to do come the end of May. So yeah, well done.
It's fun. It gives me an outlet as far as programming, because Gail and I don't get to do programming anymore. Taryn and Steve beat us with a stick and don't let us do it. So it gives me an outlet of some cool ideas I follow online. Some of the original people that got me into CrossFit. We were talking about that Tuesday on the phone about how they have a program. It's just different, new ways to think about workouts, and kind of similar to talk about going to Paleo FX, get a little fire to light up, and hopefully get some new ideas and have some fun workouts for everyone.
No, they're good. They're good. And I like the addition of your kind of top line this week, talking about being smart about when you're choosing to do these. Because a lot of times, I mean, it's tough. We experience it. And we may have mentioned this in the last podcast too. People experience on Saturdays, a lot of times some overlap in programming and some of the movements. And it becomes pretty challenging when, there's a lot of different moving parts in the programming world like that. You're programming specific workouts for additional work, and there's no possible way you could avoid hitting similar movements. So it's smart, or it's up to the individual that's choosing to do them to be smart about when they, tackle those. You wouldn't want to do the pull-up workout one the same day you did yesterday's class workout. It's just, weaving that in, being intelligent, and trying our best to take care of you guys as we do so. So that one is backed up onto the member to make that happen. So, but seems to be well received. People love it. They crave it. So carry on.
And the glass, Justin, you'll probably remember this quote. It's something like, there's magic in the movements, there's science behind the programming, and there's something behind the programming. I don't remember. He had like 3 lines that he put together. You remember that line?
Yeah, that's a Glassman quote.
Oh.
What was it? There's magic, art, and science. I think those are.
Maybe it's art in the programming, science and methodology, and magic in the movements. I think that's it.
Yeah. I think that was it.
Sounds about right.
Smart stuff.
It's a dance.
I don't know if we can even say his name anymore.
Yeah, we're canceled.
Anonymous quotes. Anonymous quote.
That was Benjamin Franklin who said that.
And kind of in the spirit too of that additional work and what it's leaning in towards, we've got now the Murph shirts. They're out for viewing and ready to be pre-ordered. If anyone's seeing this and hadn't already heard the news or seen their emails or texts, then make sure you hop on there and glance at the image, look at it in class, and get your pre-orders down for those shirts. Our partnership's really cool this year. Our shirt leans in towards, I think, like a true Navy, not only in color, but in branch of the military theme, because it looks a lot like something I would assume, a naval PT program to put out or something. So kind of a different spin on it. I was telling classes, and everyone probably already knows we are partnered up, and they design the shirt, and half those proceeds go to support the gym, half go to support that good cause, community cause. And so yeah, make sure you pre-order those. It's cool to be able to do that, reach into the community. I'm anxious to see how it pans out for you all. It's one thing to be somewhat trained for a 5K and show up as an outsider to a race and go do a 5K for a cause and pay money. I'm anxious to see how it works for you guys. People are like, I'm here to do Murph. It's like, oh, have you ever done anything like this before? Well, okay, well, here's what we'll have you to do. So
do you think y'all will draw in from the community like that, like a 5K would, just getting people off the couch and coming in? Do you think how are they advertising as well? Do you all know?
I would assume social media. We haven't seen a lot yet. I'm sure they're going to ramp it up, but you're talking about the comparison of a 5K to Murph. I mean, we all 4 know that's, 5K, don't get me wrong, like completing one of those, you complete one nonstop, great. But if you complete a full Murph, it's different. There's really no other way of saying it. And we usually don't recommend somebody just come in and flat out do, especially your first day seeing us do a Murph.
Even if you're just a month or 2 in.
Yeah. So I don't know if I hope obviously a bunch of people come in. We'll have obviously different plans for them, like different structures as far as the workout's concerned, movements, things like that. And even time, doing the workout. But so no worries there if you're watching this and you're inviting somebody. Something like that.
I think they're designing flyers to advertise. I'm sure they'll do social media posts. And kind of in the same vein as a race, sometimes races have a fun run option. We can have the version of like a fun Murph option. Justin and I showed up to run a half marathon untrained, so I don't know that it's very much different. With CrossFit background, we were like, we'll be ready for a half marathon. We've ran at least 4 miles once. So it's not wise, but not impossible.
Just have a picture of a dude in a hospital bed with a rhabdo, be like, this is what can happen to you if you don't be smart today.
Yeah. I think just me, look, I've never ran a half marathon, so I can't even attest, but I would think it'd be easier to go from CrossFit world to a 5K than 5K to CrossFit world. and mainly because of Murph, not really the CrossFit world, but that one workout, I would think the transition would be easier going from my right to left than left to right, but that's just me.
What about hiking 26 miles?
Well, I mean, with that being said, I would think I could
Please tell this story. I love this story more than anything.
I don't want to relive it. He did fine. This guy right here, he's got, and that is a good point. Like, you have different types of fitness. This guy right here, you could drop him out in the middle of the jungle, he'd be fine. He'd hike his way back 200 miles, whatever. He'd be fine. Put me out there, and I'm about to say, I don't know how Jay feels, but I'll at least speak for me.
You know how Jay feels. You know
how
Jay feels.
Me and Justin are trying to figure out how to do smoke signals, call somebody something, right? We're trying to get out of there. But he's got a different type of fitness. So I will say that if you're used to like CrossFit, I feel like I can do any workout in here, but if you drop me off out there, it is a totally different game for me. Especially though, when you get to that many miles. But yeah, this guy right here totally built for it. But yeah, that's a good point too. It is different for sure.
Have we told this story before on a podcast?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. It's worth telling again.
It's a feat. It's a huge feat. Like, it's crazy.
So, long story long, probably May of 2019, before the world closed and before I fell off a bike and before a lot of things, before Steve was a realtor, maybe even, a member named Garth asked me to join him on a hike that would check off 7 of the 9 or 12 peaks in the Smokies that are above 6,000 feet. So in other words, let's go hike. We're going to check a bunch of boxes if you're one of those peak bagger type people, which he wants to be. And we'll hit 7 of them in one day. It'll be a long walk, but we'll do it. We'll start early. The weather should be favorable. So off we go. But before we go, we somehow wrangle Steve into joining us. And I don't really even know how that
I don't either.
developed.
Yeah, I just jumped in. Sometimes I'll do that. I'm like, well, whatever. I'll just jump in on this and see what it's like. Because it sounded like super challenging. And if I would have known how challenging, I would have backed out immediately. I would have completely withdrew my request to go. But anyways.
So somehow or another, we lassoed Steve into joining us. We leave bright and early on a Thursday morning, I want to say. I think it was a Thursday. We take off from the Cosby
4 a.m.
campground at 4 a.m. So this is a really early start. And the challenge about, I think almost all but one of the 6,000 foot peaks of that day's agenda was there's not a direct trail access. So you have a large portion of the Appalachian Trail or other spurs of trails where you get your bearings and you hike off trail. It's called bushwhacking. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're just whacking through weeds, but more oftentimes than not, we were. And you find a geological stamp or a little cairn, which is not K-A-R-E-N, but C-A-R-I-N, where people have essentially like stacked a bunch of rocks. So you know that you've checked your box for that particular peak. So off we go. Steve, maybe ill-advisedly follows Garth's pace. So Garth sets the pace out of the campground and is like
Incredible pace.
literally really fast. I was uncomfortable with it. I kept saying, let's pump the brakes a little bit. This is a long day. We get 16 miles in, give or take.
Yeah, we had already done 3 or 4 peaks, and I was like, yeah.
Steve bonks. So in the hiking world, there's something called bonking. You guys heard of it. So his sugar pretty much just falls out from under him, and he has this like egg eye 10,000 yard stare where he's like, kind of.
Yeah.
So we hike to a shelter called Tri Corner, and we say, drink all this, eat all this, we'll be back. So we go out on an out and back to check off 2 more of these boxes.
Mhm.
So he loses maybe 5-6 miles in the interim while Garth and I keep going. That leaves us with 2 or 3 more, I want to say. I can't remember. I don't remember exact sequence, but we still have a couple more. We come back to check on Steve from our out and back. He's fine. He's made a friend. He's thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, we made some friends, all right.
And we proceed to go on to the final peak. At the final peak, we're something like 13 miles from the truck. And this is probably around 5 p.m. And so that puts us on the day somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 miles at that point. So we have a long hike back. We start hiking back, we get to the final descent. I think it's called Snake Den. I want to say that was the name of the trail. And like Cinderella turns back into a maid, and like her carriage turns back into a pumpkin. I always say Garth turned into a pumpkin. It was like as soon as the sun set, he turns into a pumpkin. And to make light of a pretty tough situation, it took us, I want to say 6 hours to walk the last 3 miles.
Yeah. Just to wrap it up, we started at 4 a.m. We didn't get out of there till 2 or 3 the next morning.
36 miles later.
Yeah. So a solid better part of a 40-mile hike and the better part of 24 hours of hiking. Yeah. Straight through for him. I fell apart, came back, and then
Steve was the Phoenix, Garth was Cinderella, and I was like, I don't know what I was, just like the dumb person to drag them both on behind.
I told you, I was like, you can drop him off anywhere and something like that, he'll be fine. But everybody else is gonna fall apart. So
it's crazy too, because you mentioned it just then that you bushwhack your way to a geological marker, as opposed to what a lot of people would think, well, that'd be at least cool to go see those peaks where you're looking out into beautiful views. And that wasn't the case on most of them. Is that right? How many of them had an actual overlook?
I was going to say, man, like the very first thing, it was already, obviously we started out really early in the morning. It's dark,
right?
But it's also cloudy, a little hazy. And our very first or second peak, maybe both, we were like, when we say bushwhacking, normally, you've got something, with you, you're kind of knocking things out of the way. But we got to a point, there was one of those peaks where it was nothing but like juvenile, like pine trees. Like you're having to like force your way through, and you're getting, you're hoping you don't get stabbed in the eyes and things like that. Your body's just getting lit up with all kinds of different things stabbing you. And you're, like I said, you're knocking everything out of the way. So for me, I don't know what you can see. Oh yeah. So, I was going to say, to me, like the second peak, I was like, well, if it doesn't get any tougher than this, I mean, we already set the tone. Like the tone was so high right there. I was like, it can't be much worse. And I was completely wrong, but still, it was tough, man. I mean, let's put it this way. I feel like if you hike something like that, you should be able to handle kind of any unless it's just some ultra marathon style hike. You should be able to handle whatever you want to do in the hiking world.
I always think about Bob Vick. Justin, Bob Vick. I think he should write a book called What About Bobisms, because he always has like a little one-liner that can kind of encapsulate some kind of truth. And one of his lines flew through my head that whole day, and it was, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. And I was like, well,
you saying that every 10 steps of those last 6 miles to get you out of there, or last 3 miles or whatever. Yeah.
So Garth had a knee problem, correct?
Yeah, give the devil his due. Garth,
Yes.
Garth thought he had blown a meniscus or torn an ACL.
To be fair to him, he thought something major happened. So we had to help him, get his way. And when I say we, I mean that guy. He helped him. Yeah, I mean, like, couldn't put weight on that knee that much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was the pace of the last 6 miles or 3 miles, whatever it was.
Well, and the point of no return really that became, I think, the end that made it real bad was we get through with the 8th peak, and it was already off the trail too, which, by the way, that's the way these peaks are set up. It's like you're on a trail, a pretty solid trail, right? And then you just spur off to the left or right trying to look for this peak, whether it's you're fighting juvenile pine trees or if you're, I don't know what you might be. And one of them, the eighth one, we get out there and we get to it. It took us forever. We went a wrong way.
It was like a mile and a half.
And it was
bushwhack. It was a mile bushwhack on one of them.
Yes. And so then we come back to the trail. We're like, okay, check, right? And then we all pose the question of going for that 9th one. If we wouldn't have went for that 9th one, I don't think it would have been, or the 7th one or wherever it was, it would not have been that bad, because that thing was straight up a damn hill. No trail.
7 of 12.
Okay. It was straight up a mountain, no trail at all. So it was completely up like this. And it had to be a solid, it felt like a half mile up that thing.
You're kind of hanging on to roots of trees above you as you're climbing.
Yes.
Yeah. So we get to the very top of that and then come back down. And then that's when things go awry, because that 8th peak or 6th peak or whatever, the one before, that would have been a good turnaround point to go back. But we decided we'll go one more. And that one more was shit.
It was the straw that broke the camel's knee.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just hopping on the road and walking on a flat road for that many miles, let alone wading your way through that kind of chaos.
It's like, hey, you want to walk from Bristol to Richlands? Let's do that today. Let's see if we can do that.
That's why, like, if somebody asks, if any of you guys like see this episode and you ask me to hike and I tell you no, don't take it. I had like a wrong turn movie scenario hiking. Okay.
I think we gained almost 8,000 feet that day.
Jeez.
I think I lost off my life. So
You've got PTHD, post-traumatic hikes, or PTS hike syndrome.
I still wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night yelling.
So what you're saying is you're not going to the Charlie's Bunyan hike in May?
If I do, I might have to have a drink of liquor before I go.
That one's just rolling. It's easy. It's not
Yeah.
bad. It's less than 10 miles. It's maybe 8 miles. Maybe. Not even that, I don't think. Anyway, that was a big tangent.
A lot, boys. We went. I think the last one we went on. I don't know. It's like every hike I go on. Robin and I, we go like traveling and stuff like that. It's like 2 to 5 miles max. I don't think I've been on one with Galen that's sub 11 miles. I really don't think. I feel great for like the first half, and I get my little pout walk, and I'm just like, oh man. I was like, I don't want to do this. I just take my camera so I have an excuse to stop and take pictures. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We ran into some people on our most recent trip and talked to them for a second that just got back from Zion, and it brought back a lot of memories of hiking over in there and how pretty that was, and Angels Landing and stuff. And I don't think, I mean,
That was the last time we took a trip for education purposes too.
oh yeah, that was.
Fit Con or Fitness Con or whatever it's
Oh, that
called.
was- yeah, Salt Lake City. Yeah.
Yeah, Salt Lake. Yeah.
Shout out to Jason Smith for letting us use his loft and stay
Yeah,
there.
no doubt.
Yeah, Zion is amazing for sure.
It was beautiful.
I saw a video that I may send it to you all, or I sent it to Galen. Dude hiked Angels Landing in a snowstorm blizzard. I was like, there's no way.
God, no. Like, so many people die on that, right? Like a year. I mean, not a ton, but I mean, enough to make you think I should climb that one.
Also, I want to bring up, talking about long distances. Well, not as long as you all just did. Robin is doing a 5K. We've put it in announcements. I think we may do that on a Saturday, just program it for a class if y'all are good with that. And it's for she's in PT school at South College. One of her professors, he's like world renowned. He has tons of research papers he's released and stuff like that. And they help do a physical therapist clinic in Haiti, and they do a 5K every year, and that money goes to pay physical therapists to help the people in Haiti with their physical therapy needs. So it's really, really cool. I'm looking at like May 7th, somewhere through that. I think it's on a Saturday, but it's in announcements. If you want to sign up, there's a link and you can go sign up. And I think if you put 10 Experience, I think is your team, we'll just take kind of a group picture and send it to them, and they'll send it out for us. But it's a really, really cool thing. And same thing, Galen's talking about a fun run. If you want to do a fun run, if you're Justin and you hate running and you want to do it for another partner that hates running, you can split it up and do it like that. So Steve and I can do 400s until we get a 5K, and then Galen and Taryn can do a 15K a piece. No big deal.
I'll walk. Taryn can run.
Yeah, loaded vest. Yeah, that's cool. That's good.
Really neat. And Robin's, she's getting ready to start, I think, clinicals in June. So she's coming up as well, getting close to moving on to the next big part of her schooling.
Yeah.
And as Marty was in here last night, he was actually talking. He's like, hey, what about me doing a workshop or something on a Saturday? And I was like, dude, I would love to have that. So Marty may be coming in and kind of helping out a little bit. Physical therapy needs, at least here in Bristol, we all have Zach all the time. We could get Marty up here, and I'd love to do it.
Hey, speaking of cool events, it was somebody's birthday recently. We do need to acknowledge that.
I was thinking about it as we talked about birthdays in Brisket and Bluff City and Bourbon.
Yeah, at least a quick shout out to somebody.
All the babies. We'll keep going. This beautiful babe sitting right beside me.
Bumper.
Bumper. That booty. Yeah, Taryn, how old are you?
I'm 30.
What did you do for your 30th birthday, Taryn?
Lauren, we're not always the best planners of trips and things. We oftentimes
I would disagree with that highly.
well, we kind of tag along. We tag along a lot too, if I'm honest. We do travel of our fair share, but rarely do we plan. But she did a great job planning a little trip up to Louisville or the Louisville, Lexington area. So we stayed in Louisville, which is a cool city. And then we traveled around and learned of the history and production and flavor and et cetera of Kentucky made bourbon. So that was really cool. Caught quite a few stops on the bourbon trail, and also we're there not far out before the horse race. So they're starting to dial up a lot of the marketing and stuff for the Kentucky Derby that's coming up at the beginning of next month. So that was cool to see. And that's beautiful country. I don't know if anyone's had the chance to go up in there yet and spend any time moving around those horse farms and things, because a lot of the distilleries are off the main drag, so they'll take you out towards everything good there. They'll take you out towards
Talking and we heard a noise and
It sounded like someone wailing back there.
yeah, so chainsaw massacre back there.
towards the horse farms and stuff, where it's beautiful land and lots incredible amount of money, I'm sure, spent and made and grown there. But it was a great trip. It was good. Kind of cool weather and things, but it was fun nonetheless. Yeah.
Would you say that like having horses is like a cheap activity?
Yeah. Odin says no. I would
I
say
always think that, man. I'm like,
that kind of horse keeping. To my understanding, I don't know a lot about horses. You can probably ask a couple of our members, Becca, if you're listening, she could chime in. But even on a small scale, I don't think it's cheap. But on that kind of scale is just, I can't imagine the amount of money tangled up in those farms and those horses and breeding those and things. But no, I think you already knew the answer to that, but
yeah.
but I would definitely, and after seeing, yeah, exactly. And
We
after
need to buy some horses. We need to train these
there,
horses.
it's a different world how they do it up there. I saw a van very similar to Justin's. If anyone in Morristown knows what Justin's van's like, except it was probably another 2 foot taller or a little more, and didn't have like windows in the back necessarily, or it wasn't designed to be like a camper van that he's converted his to. And instead it was a horse hauler, but it was a Mercedes, same cab as yours.
That's
the
crazy.
back was I guess they do have like a ramp they drop down. So instead of like a nice truck and a nice trailer, which there were plenty of those too, this was built into one. It was like a single horse hauler. And it had the name of the farm on the side, and you could see like a slotted window in the side like you would see in a trailer, but this was in one of those like Mercedes Sprinter van, the bigger, huge version. I was like, they're doing it a little different up here. So it was really, really cool. But
Probably like Secretariat's grandson or something.
yeah, probably. But the history up there is really, really cool too. Obviously there's a lot more behind that than just a drink that gets people feeling good. All of them had their stories through Prohibition and how they transitioned and made money and still kept the doors open to some capacity. So that was cool too.
What was your favorite distillery?
That's kind of a trick question because there are a few different boxes that some of them check, and I think we talked about it a little bit. One was the owner and operator of this one was way ahead of their time when they first developed it. I think if I remember correctly, it was late 1800s, early 1900s. But he had spent a lot of time overseas, like in Europe, and he wanted to come back and bring a lot of those ideas back. So instead of just making a production facility, he made kind of a destination. Way before, obviously, there was a bourbon trailer. People were coming to visit places like that. So he made it look like a castle, and he expanded the land all around it to these big, pretty gardens. And then there was a creek that runs behind it. There was a man-made water, like kind of spillway waterfall type there. So not only was it somewhere to go and explore and buy, but he also wanted people to spend time there and host events there. And so that was a cool one. It's called Castle and Key. But as far as like large scale production, Buffalo Trace was really, really cool because
It's awesome.
they were one of the only, there was only 6, sorry if no one cares about bourbon, but there was only 6 distilleries that were able to still produce alcohol in the United States during Prohibition. They just changed their focus towards medicinal because you could get your physician to write you a script for that. And Buffalo Trace was one of those. So their history never stopped, and they were able to, and there's a bunch of brands underneath their name that are really high end. So they had tons of stuff to teach about. But Castle and Key from a venue standpoint,
So you
Buffalo
said,
Trace from a unique standpoint.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really, really
That's
neat.
really
It was just a different spin because that guy was way ahead of his time. Now they have a gym that people want to come see and hang out at, whereas a lot of them were like industrialized. They're not beautiful.
large scale production.
Right, they're production facilities and storage warehouses or rick houses, they call it. So, yeah.
That area you're talking about, that area, it reminds me of kind of like middle West Virginia. If you've ever driven through West Virginia, like the rolling hills and stuff like that on the outside of the Appalachian Mountains. It's very pretty. I like it a lot. We came back from maybe South Dakota that way. I can't remember. It's beautiful.
But hat tip to Lauren for that trip. Thank you very much, because she took a lot of time to plan out that and the locations and to book and to get the tours and all the above. So thank you. And thanks for the birthday wishes. And no, I do not feel old. So yet.
Sounds like gray hair.
Yeah. Anyways, boys, what else we got to cover? Or we want to mention before wrapping it up? Anything over there that we missed highlighting? Other than obviously Merck's coming up. We talked about that a little bit. Just keep grinding through our programming focus there.
Program's been good. I've been so sore. I don't know what it is, but it's been really, really good. I like it. Y'all doing a great job. Brag on you.
Thanks. And if anyone has anything else to say about it, just fire off in the comments, whether you agree with Justin. We'll take that into consideration.
Did y'all do the slam ball workout?
Tuesday.
Yeah.
That was one of the most uncomfortable workouts I've ever done in my life, as far as just being under stress the whole time. And I hate static holds and running, so it's just like a big middle finger to me, and did not like it.
It's like a teeny little snippet of what you guys went through on your tail end of your hike type thing. There's nowhere to go or hide. Like, you have to get it done. You got to keep moving. All of them, you can keep moving with it. So it's you're always on the edge of uncomfortable, or you're always uncomfortable, but not unbearably uncomfortable. So you can keep, going and going and going. So 20-minute workouts are never fun. And you start throwing those movements in there. Yeah, you're in for it.
It was like, I don't know. I told somebody in the class, I was like, I felt horrible. Then I would get to the box step ups and like 14 to 16 reps. I'm like, all right, I caught my breath. And then I would hop down after 4 more steps and do my push ups. Like, okay, that felt great. And then as soon as I pick up the ball and go out the door, 100 meters in, it was like, here we are again. Cannot hide.
Start back over.
Yeah. It's good though. It's very good for what we're going to be doing with Murph, especially with all the ones who wear vests.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be great training.
The toughest ones and sometimes most rewarding ones don't necessarily have to be sexy. It probably wasn't the sexiest on paper, but it was plenty effective.
Oh yeah. We had a high attendance day that day. We had a very high attendance day. It was good, especially that morning.
It's reminiscent of the Memorial Day stair climb we did when I had the slam ball.
I remember that.
All you
Also-
people in Northtown, if you ever want to do that, come on down. It's fun. Galen did it last year. It's a really good time. Sorry, G, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I think weighted running, loaded carries, long, burdensome activity is good for us just as much mentally as it is the fitness development side.
Hey, Taryn, do you ever get people like, they'll ask about, why'd you program that? Like, I know you didn't like that, or I know something like they'll be like, I can't believe you programmed that because you normally don't like that, or you normally don't do what. I'm like, I hear that sometimes, whether it's a workout like that, because that's not a good workout for me.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, I'm like, I still try to program things I don't like. I'm hoping that we do that. I'm hoping that we are covering all grounds, because if we're just stuck in the same, echo chamber, that's not good either. But I didn't know if anybody ever approaches you about that, like programming something outside of your particular wheelhouse, which wouldn't be much, but
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they specifically say it that way, but I think people get a kick out of trying to, if they're not really in tune with our 2-week rotation, trying to guess who's weak or who programmed that one. And a lot of times they'll look at me like, Steve programmed that one, didn't he? And I was like, no, that one was me. He's like, well, that was a lot more like some kind of Steve's
Yeah.
So I think that's them saying that without saying that, more or less. But yeah, you're exactly right. That's like, I have to twist my own arm a little bit more to program a workout with barbell cycling and short duration, like sprint type work. I don't do as well there, but no, you're exactly right. And yes, in a way they say that without saying that. Like, but yeah, that's,
I was gonna say any workout where it's like 20 or 30 minutes and it's a bunch of movements and then running, where like running is your rest. I do not do well there, but I do program those like quite a bit, you know, and I know you do too, but
yeah. And as the weather continues to break for us, it just, you'll see more and more of it. It opens up the door to so many more programming options to, you know, get people outside as opposed to limiting the indoors with the rowers and the bikes. So I love when it warms up, not just because I'm a little biased towards running, even though I don't truly like running, you know, as much as that sounds backwards. I'm not going to go out like Lauren. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not going to go out like Lauren and I'm going out for a run today. I would never do that. It's just something that I happen to be, you know, built pretty decent for. But I definitely love this time of year from a programming standpoint, as we can start incorporating, get people out the door. It spreads out your room better. It gives you more chances to, you know, have bigger groups safely training in one small space, I think. So, and it's also fun to torture some people.
No, I think y'all do a good job. It's a balanced program. When Galen and I would program, it's the same thing. Of course, we have our biases, but we're not going to completely neglect one domain because I hate running. I'm not going to be like, all right, I'm not ever going to run again. I still want to be a better person and a better athlete, and doing those sucky things kind of help you out. Like, especially that Tuesday workout, I didn't want to do that at all. And it's just like, well, I need to. So it's like eating broccoli. I don't want to, but I need to.
But if you smell pancakes before you eat it,
Makes it so much better. Insert clip.
All right, it's dinner time. Show us this technique you use, Steve.
anytime I go to eat broccoli, it's a technique I always use. It tastes just like a pancake. You can find a way to trick your mind into letting that be fun. You're all right.
Funny. Who was I working out with? I was working out with Kelly, and she lapped me. She did like 5.5 rounds. It's so fast. And she was running with a 20-pound med ball. She was running I think her first 400 was probably 135, 140, something like that. Just booking it.
load it up.
And I was just like, phew. And mine's like I think I ran 6-minute 400 or something like that.
No way.
Nah, it was like 210 or something like that.
That's good.
Anything new going on? Anything like happening? Anything that's happened recently, Steve? But Steve went to Florida for a vacation to see Grant Cardone, aka the Hat.
Yeah. I'll touch real quick on that, I guess. I went down there for a conference, and anyways, I try to, just like we do with the gym, I try to get as much education as I can. He's real big on capturing attention. Like, he's very good at social media. I would say he's definitely got 1 million followers on Instagram. He's all over YouTube, and I tell you guys, sometimes we talk about that, you know, with social media, things that we do. And he's one of those guys that he thinks he should be blasting posts all the time. We don't necessarily, you know, think that way, but nonetheless, he's big on that, and he puts on a good show, man. I mean, that was a fantastic conference. I mean, he had his very first speaker set the tone. I thought he had, you know, the former president of the United States, very first speaker. You know, normally at an event like that, that's your last speaker, you know, somebody like that. And then he had TD Jakes. He had just he had, I think, at least 5 billionaires on stage. And I mean, you know, however you line up on that, as far as business is concerned, anytime you can listen to a billionaire talk about business, you probably should. And so that's one of the reasons I went. And anyways, I love Florida. I love the whole state of Florida. I had never been to where I went. I went to Hollywood, right above Miami. And it's pretty. I mean, another thing I will say, I knew Galen, he's been there. He told me about the fact that like all these like nice cars will be down there. There's a lot of money flowing down there. So that was a little interesting to see. And also humbling. So to know that you're not doing much, at least this is me thinking business wise though, not, you know, gym wise or anything like that. But just to see all that, it's very inspiring to me. That's why I like stuff like that. But it was cool. I loved it.
Did you say Hollywood, Florida? Is that what it's called, Steve?
Yeah,
Oh,
ironically. You tell people you're from Hollywood, they automatically think West Coast. I'm like, no, it's not that Hollywood. I wouldn't do good there.
Aaron just said that Craig May, one of our members here, goes there sometimes.
Shout out Craig.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Hollywood.
It's awesome. I mean, the beaches are pretty, of course, and then I know sometimes, like, I know right now Myrtle Beach is going through a lot of, like, there's some violence and things like that going on, but it was very low key. It's very cool. Good weather and all that. So cool.
G, you got anything besides building a house on the hill?
He's building a Miami Strip.
That's all the bandwidth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I have to focus, spare attention and energy towards right now. I think my phone's blown up a few times since I got a bunch of notifications since we started this. So no, I look forward to the day when I have some space to think creatively more than I can right now. Look forward to traveling with you guys next week, traveling again this summer, doing things that are a return to normal without a mask.
Without a mask, yep.
You? Can we listen to anything on the plane when you go? Anything lined up for audiobook or anything like that when we travel?
I will. I haven't done it much. I finished that enlightening engineering book I talked about last time and started Marcus Aurelius's Meditations again. It's a perennial reread for me. But I may listen to that. I've never listened to it, so I might listen to it.
It's a 3 sentences can be 2 hours worth of thinking from that book. We just got back from seeing Jordan Peterson talk. Speaking of genius minds, it was really good. We got the VIP package, got to meet him, shake his hand, and all that stuff. Incredibly smart, super humble. Like, generally enjoyed talking to people, and like smile, shake hands multiple times with you, and it's just like seems like he's happy to be doing back in the tour, which he's doing now, which is really good. And then we went to a Buc-ee's, which was really cool. If you've never been to a Buc-ee's,
Speaking of which, on the way up 75, they're putting one in.
Crossville?
No, into Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky.
We
Okay.
passed one on the way up on the right, and then obviously you mentioned the one in Gatlinburg. You're coming to Gatlinburg.
Yeah, G had mentioned that. So
Yeah, the biggest one apparently, but no, he passed. It wasn't done. I don't think it was vacant anyway. There was no one in.
If you've ever been to a Buc-ee's, go to a Buc-ee's. It's the best gas station ever. Robin Buc.
Okay. I was gonna say, what is it?
What's that?
Convenience store, is that what it is, essentially on steroids?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a supermarket of convenience stores. It looked like.
Dude, they have like home goods. Like you can buy pillows and chairs there. You can buy like hunting blinds. You can buy. They have a beef jerky bar. They have like pulled pork and brisket daily. 16 icy flavors. It's it's ridiculous. I've never seen that. And then no lie, the one we stopped at probably had 100 gas pumps, and I would say 60% of them or more were filled up. Like people at it. It was crazy. But it's mostly around bigger cities and stuff like that.
That's how I was surprised.
Funny that it seems to be top of mind to me right now since you've been talking about it so much. Someone in the gym came in with a Buc-ee shirt on. I would never have known. Just like a little logo that says, "Is it a beaver or a squirrel?"
Beaver, yeah, Beaver.
Yeah, and I was like, "I know what that shirt is," and she laughed and she actually tore her sleeve in the middle of a jerk. I was like, "Just cut the sleeve down."
It's so bad you were pointing at a tattoo right there. That's where my mind went that she got a Buc-ee's tattoo.
I may do it before it's over with.
Yeah, in our two most recent podcasts, it's got brought up and has now probably taken up 5 minutes of our talking Buc-ee's. So we're apparently big fans of that, and three of us have never been. So
You gotta go. Gotta go. So, well, they're open one in Crossville and then one in Sevierville. So
heading our way. Yeah.
we'll stop at one in Austin. Don't worry. Pam said she's going to take us when she's down there. She's like, we're gonna go to Buc-ee's first thing when I get there. I was like, that's funny. So I think she's supposed to be meeting us.
Nice. Yeah, we'll be traveling. We'll bring back some new ideas and stuff for you guys. Until then, just keep chipping away. Murph's definitely out in our crosshairs. You've heard us harp on it enough. I guess we can kind of highlight the things we mentioned there. So if you're interested in supporting Robin and their PA group and their trip to Haiti, definitely hop on the link that's in Watify there and sign up 10X with that code. That'll be in a Saturday coming up. Pre-order those Murph shirts. Stay tuned with new information that comes back out as we return from Austin.
That's about it.
That
Maybe
kinda
even try to get like Shannon and Katya to podcast while we're down there or something like that. That'd be really good to kind of pump up the 10-pick class some.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Summer coming up. Last year was a big hit during the summer, had a lot more new members. So if we can get that ball rolling again.
Yeah, we can have us all in one screen versus sharing the Skype ideas.
That's it.
That'd be good.
When was the last time we did that? Was that Virginia? We
Yeah,
did something like
screwed
that.
up the audio and it sounded like crap.
Oh yeah, when we were up on the porch there outside of Shenandoah.
Sunset, remember the
That-
sunset?
Yeah,
So pretty.
that was incredible.
That was awesome.
Cool place that we stayed too. So, all right, boys. Well, I guess we can go ahead and bring this one to a close. Again, as always, thanks for listening. Hopefully you guys had a good time and listen to us ramble a bit and hopefully provide some type of direction and information and entertainment. So as always, comment. We can do the normal YouTube stuff. Like and subscribe if you would like to be notified.
Comment as well.
Comment, like, and subscribe. Get our algorithms juiced up a little bit. But nonetheless, thanks for tuning in. Galen, Steve, good to see you boys. See you in a few days. Love you guys. Justin,
It's good times, good times. Miss you all already.
sayonara.